Before we get started, we got the Mayor of Prattville, Bill Gillespie, Assistant Chief Diane Thomas, Chief Fire Department Terry Brown, and you got the different investigators and captains that were involved in this incident. I want to thank y'all for coming and bearing with us on this. This has been kind of out of the ordinary for the city of Prattville. I believe this is the first officer we've had shot in the line of duty, other than an accidental training episode that happened years ago, but this is the first in the line officer that's been shot. Thursday, June 8th, 2017, at approximately 13:43 hours, officers responded to 137 Patrick Street due to a report of a domestic dispute. Sergeant Donnie Martin and Officer Tyler Ray were the first two officers on the scene and immediately began speaking with the victim, identified as a 42-year-old white female, as additional witnesses who were also on the scene. That was 3 white males. While speaking to the victim and witnesses, the suspect, identified as William Jerrett, his first name or middle name that he went by, Jerrett, last name Carrico, 44-year-old white male, walked outside of the residence. Officers immediately attempted to make contact. There was a verbal confrontation between the officers and the suspect. At that time, he went back into the residence. Officers pursued in regards to making an arrest on domestic violence. Upon entering the residence, the suspect was hidden in the hall area and started firing on officers. Sergeant Martin was struck in the vest in the lower chest area one time. He fell back on Officer Tyler, and they exited the residence at that time and took cover and waited for responding officers to get there and set up the perimeter. At the time the call went out, I think the city of Prattville seen the closeness in the law enforcement and fire community of the response. Fire medics were on the scene within minutes once they realized it was a police officer. The number of agencies, we can't thank them enough. We had agencies from all over the state calling us with their teams on standby to come aid if needed. And then you had federal, state, local officers on the ground asking what we needed and how much we needed. But U.S. Marshals arrived on the scene. They had a robot that we deployed into the residence, and with that we were able to locate the suspect. He was located in the back bedroom and was not moving at the time the robot found him. So we decided to make entry. At that time we didn't know if he was incapacitated or deceased, but we made entry with our tactical team, and we found him in the back bedroom with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Details of what happened that day: the lady was a roommate. They were not in a relationship, but domestic violence law covers roommate disputes, and he'd gotten in a dispute with her shortly before we were called. Apparently had been drinking a substantial amount of alcohol, and we have found out from family members that he might have had some mental illness issues. So he was turned over to the forensic science for autopsy. We're waiting on the results, but it was self-inflicted gunshot, 9mm. The weapon was recovered next to the body. And again, we'd like to thank not only all the law enforcement that responded, but the city of Prattville on the support they give our officers through this situation. They have always been supportive, but when they heard one of our people been shot, the prayers and the texts we got really meant a lot to us and helped us through a hard time. Mayor, you got anything you'd like to add to this?
Yes, sir. You know, it just shows exactly how tight a community Prattville really is, and where we cannot control what's thrown at us from time to time. What we can do is control how we handle that. And I'm very proud of not only our public safety on how they have handled this and the camaraderie with the county and the state and so forth, but also the way our citizens have really reached out and made their feelings know about how important our community is. So I do hope that, to reiterate what you said, Chief, continue to pray for us all, but thank you for everybody who's reached out and the way everybody's handled this one. Thank you.
Chief Brown? Assistant Chief? We'll take some brief questions. We're not going to get into a detail of a lot, but we will answer some questions.
Kind of speak about the mental health aspect. I know that's something that's still not completely tangible here, but mental health, domestic violence, those are two things you all encounter every day, and it's turned out to be a tremendously dangerous situation, not only for officers, but the public also.
It did, and this was the first time we'd had any dealings with this particular individual. It was not on radar. We have several that when we have problems, we put it in our system to be alerted if we have to deal with them on a constant basis. But this subject was not known to us at this time until this happened.
Talk about the people that live in this house and were at this house. How have they been cooperating with this investigation?
Fully cooperative. We listened to the audio tape of the call. You could tell the lady was in distress. She was in fear for her safety as well as others. The people that were witnesses there pretty much felt like he was going to get a weapon when he went back in the house. So the public that was involved in this has been very cooperative.
Was it his weapon?
As far as we've been able to tell so far, yes.
How's the officer?
He's fine. He's in a class out of state, which worked out for the best for all of us. And we've had requests to talk to the officers, which we're not going to be allowing that either.
Is that class in relation to this incident or just happened to be scheduled?
It happened to be scheduled. He's a master instructor in TASER, and it was time for the recertification.
When do you expect him to be back out on the force?
As soon as he gets back, he'll be, the officers that were involved went to counseling the next day, and we're fully confident that they're ready to go back to the street. All of them requested to go back to the street that day.
I had asked you Thursday about, some teachable moments from this situation. Now that you know a little bit more, how are you kind of breaking this down to some of your officers, especially your younger officers, and kind of, at least using it for the best for an experience nonetheless?
We spent most of the morning with the command staff looking, just constantly going back over the tape, looking at what we could have done better. The officer's done nothing wrong, but there are things that we will address and start looking at that we will use this. Tomorrow our TAC team's having training, and this tape will be part of it. So we don't, when a situation like this happens, we don't look at what good we done, we look at what we could have done better to hopefully this never happens again. But we all know it will. Anything else? Thank you.